The Supreme Court's investigation of itself was a complete failure in its attempt to find the leaker of the draft opinion that overturned Roe versus Wade last year. The 20-page investigative report by the Marshal of the Supreme Court contained a very deliberate deception that was quickly exposed. The 20-page description of the investigation did not include a single question being posed to a single justice of the Supreme Court. We reported on the absurdity of that on this program Thursday night when the report was released. And on Friday, the Marshal of the Supreme Court was forced to, in effect, add a paragraph to the inadequate and unprofessional report saying this: during the course of the investigation, I spoke with each of the justices, several on multiple occasions. The justices actively cooperated in this iterative process, asking questions and answering mine. I followed up on all credible leads, none of which implicated the justices or their spouses. On this basis, I did not believe that it was necessary to ask the justices to sign sworn affidavits. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he is the author of The Scheme: How the Right Wing Used Dark Money to Capture the Supreme Court. Senator, your reaction to the 20-page report and then the new additional paragraph that told us so much about the justices' involvement in the investigation.
Well, I've been involved in investigations as my state's attorney general and United States attorney, and there's a lot about this investigative report that is very weird. It starts out weird in the very first sentence, where they describe the crime here, the incident, as being no mere misguided attempt at protest, which flags the prospect that the Democrat appointees did it, that it was their office's attempt to protest the Dobbs decision. Well, if you can't solve who done it, then you've got no business trying to flag a motive. And they do that in page 1, and it's only a motive that would apply to the guilty party being a member of the staff of the Democratic justices. Then you go on to the fact that they couldn't get anything done and didn't make it clear whether they'd interviewed a bunch of prime suspects, which is the justices themselves, about their activities or their spouses, or whether they took the opinion home. So then, as you point out, this other paragraph came out, and it's peculiar. It's an iterative process, not an investigative process. Mm-hmm. The judges were asking questions as well as answering them. The whole thing makes no sense. And the backdrop to this is the recusal problem of Justice Thomas, when it was clear that his wife had equities in these investigations that should have caused him to recuse himself, and he didn't. And his excuse was that he knew nothing about his wife's activities, which is a fact question. It's a question that lends itself to investigation. And the Supreme Court chose not to investigate it. Indeed, I don't think he's ever made a statement about it. This information has come out through other mouths, through his wife, for instance. So you have a court that is unbelievably frightened and cautious about asking questions of the justices in matters that involve ethics and leak. It's as if the justices are made out of meringue and will crumble if they're put under any pressure. So it's a very, very peculiar investigative report, and frankly, doesn't look very investigative.
Senator Whitehouse, could you please, we have to squeeze in a commercial break here. Please stay with us because we want to hear about your experience in Ukraine over the weekend with President Zelensky. We'll be right back with Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.